Hey everybody, hope y'all are doing good today. This video is one I've debated on making. I thought about making it back a while and I kind of decided not to. Well, I've decided to go ahead and do it. I wanted to go over a little bit of some issues I had, me and Dad, when we was trying to buy this John Deere, and also some experiences some other people has had. In our area, and they're kind of widespread now, but Meade Tractor is basically the only place you can buy a John Deere. There's not any other John Deere dealerships local. There are a few off from here, pretty good drive. But anyways, when we found the deal on this John Deere 5045, it was kind of through John Deere and Meade Tractor, a Meade Special. Well, Dad called to check on it and everything and see if they had one to look at. And there was two 5045Es. One was in Bluefield, West Virginia. I'm not sure where the other one was at, but Bluefield was the closest, which is a hard 2-hour drive or a little over from here. So that Saturday, Dad, this is before Mamaw passed away, Dad and Mom was staying with Mamaw that weekend. And the special was running out at the end of October, and this was towards the middle of October. So I decided to run out there to Bluefield that Saturday. I called the Friday before and talked to them, and here's kind of where it starts getting weird. Dad talked to Meade and Abingdon. Well, Meade and Abingdon, the price they gave us was a different price, which was actually cheaper than the price they gave us in Bluefield. Same dealerships. I don't understand where the confusion was, but it was about a $400 difference. It was $400 more at Bluefield. So anyways, I called that guy and told him the situation, that we'd probably be dealing with Meade of Abingdon just because it's closer. But I was wanting to come look at the tractor, and then they said they could get it transferred if it was something we was interested in. So I talked to that salesman there in Bluefield, and I headed out that Saturday morning to go out there. He said they had the tractor and everything. Well, I got there and didn't see the tractor on the lot, so I sort of panicked a little bit to start with. Well, I went in and found the salesman. He said no. He said, we have the tractor. It's back here in the shop. The mechanics had it hooked to a new round baler, and they was using it to run the round baler and get it set up. So he took me back in the shop. I looked around at the tractor and everything, and I said, well, I asked him a few questions, you know, like what's this switch over here on the fender, which is, you know, to where you can get off the seat and leave the PTO on the tractor not die. I asked what this little button on the dash was and a few different things, and he didn't know. I asked him if it was a independent PTO or, you know, had a 2-stage clutch like the older tractors, because I knew it was a dry clutch system. Didn't know. Pulled his phone out looking at it. I mean, this is a salesman. They should know these things. So then I was like, well, can I try the tractor out? You know, it's hooked to that round baler. I said, I'd like to try it out. Well, I don't really know if he's done with it or not. And I kind of looked over everything, and I was like, well, I can't see any reason the tractor couldn't be unhooked from the baler and let me drive it around outside, and then we can hook it back up. I said, I'll do that myself. So he said, you know, he kind of hum-hawed around, and finally he went and asked somebody, and they was like, yeah, we'll unhook it. So they unhooked it, and I took it out and drove it around the parking lot and all that. Well, I decided that, you know, called Dad, talked to him and everything, and I told him, you know, I feel like it'd be a pretty good tractor for the money and the size and all that. And then told Dad, I said, if you want to call the guy at Abingdon that you've been talking to and tell him we're going to take the tractor, and I'll tell them here, and that way they can get it transferred. So he called, and he did his part, and I did mine. And I told the guy there at Bluefield that we'd be taking it, just put a tag on it and everything, which he did. And the guy at Abingdon, he said, well, told Dad, said our transfer day's on Thursday. We'll get it transferred on Thursday, get it set up and ready. Y'all want to come out on Saturday and do the paperwork. So this was the next Saturday. A week goes by. Dad calls Friday, talks to him out there at Abingdon, and he said, we don't have the tractor. And Dad's like, what do you mean you don't have the tractor? He said, well, we don't have it. He said it's in, where did he say at that point? Marion. I think he said it's in Marion. And he's like, why is it in Marion? So then Dad said, well, see when you're going to have it on your lot. So the guy calls back a little later and tells Dad, well, the tractor's not in Christiansburg. And Dad said, well, you said it's in Marion earlier. He said, well, it wasn't in Marion, so I thought they may have sent it to Christiansburg. Wasn't in Christiansburg. Dad said, well, where's the tractor at? He said, I don't know. I really don't know where it's at. So that was almost closing time. Saturday comes, and we're supposed to go out there and do the paperwork. Well, we're not going to do paperwork not knowing if they've sold the tractor or, nobody knew where it was at that point. And so Dad tries calling that morning and couldn't get an answer from the salesman. He called the secretary and said, can you go tell the salesman to give me a call as soon as possible? We need to know what to do. And the salesman never replied that day, wouldn't answer or nothing. When Monday rolls around, first thing, I call Bluefield. I'm like, the bunch at Abingdon says they can't figure out where the John Deere 5045 is. He told him who it was and everything. He remembered me. He said, yeah, it's sitting out here, as far as I know, with your name on it. And he said, let me go check. So he went and checked. He come back in. He said, yeah, we have it. Said it's out there and got your name, says to be transferred. And I'm like, well, they're telling us we can't. They don't know where it's at. So I call Abingdon then, right immediately after that. I call Dad and tell him, and then I call Abingdon. And I talked to the salesman at Abingdon, told him he'd been talking with my dad and everything, and I said, I want to know what's going on with that tractor. I said, y'all said you'd have it Thursday, and then you said it was lost, you didn't know where it's at. I said, I want to know what's going on. I didn't let him know I knew. He said, well, we was just back there talking about it. Said, we're going to send a truck to Marion, or to Withville, I guess it was around Withville, and pick up a tractor. They're going to go back through Bluefield and come back to Abingdon with it, and we'll have it here this evening. I was like, okay. So, I don't understand why people want to lie to you. I mean, obviously, you'd think he could figure out that the tractor just hadn't been moved. Why didn't they just tell us that instead of lying to us? I felt like we was lied to. Dad asked him, he's like, well, why didn't you return my phone call on Saturday? He's like, I don't know. That was my bad. It's kind of what he said. But the thing is, the reason the push was, we was running out of time on the 0% finance, and it was supposed to end it according to the paper at the end of October. And, it seemed like a week was going by, or several days, each time there was a little change of delay. So anyways, it all worked out. But that was really frustrating. I got with the lack of knowledge of the salesman there at Bluefield, which is a meat dealership, and then just the lack of honesty and whatever was going on there at Abingdon, I got frustrated with. A guy up here local a few years ago bought a 5075 at Abingdon, and he got really upset with them, said he would never go back there. I don't know what exactly happened. The best I can remember what he said was they had a tractor there that was sold, and it had a few options on it that he liked, and he told the salesman they priced the tractor. He wanted it priced as that one was set up. And when they got the tractor, that for their tractor, it didn't have everything that the original one had. So, or the one they looked at had. So he got upset over that. And I might be wrong on that. I can't remember exactly. But I know he said he'd never go back to Abingdon. And so Mike then, he was looking at a tractor. And he had looked at Kubota's, John Deere's, New Holland, Massey Ferguson, priced everything. And he kind of narrowed it down to John Deere or Kubota. Well, the guy I'm talking about had told Mike, you know, you might want to go to Kingsport and deal with them, because because of the problems he'd had at Abingdon. And I texted Mike, this was right before we purchased this tractor, and I was like, they've got, I think it's $6,000 off on a 5075E with a loader and a cab, and 0% financing right now on John Deere's through Meade. So he called the very next morning out there to Kingsport, and he said, told him what he was looking at, and he said, I heard you can get $7,000 off and 0% financing on them. And that guy's like, no, you can only get one or the other. And Mike's like, well, my buddy told me that you could get both. And he said, I saw a commercial this morning, and I'm pretty sure it said you could get both. Well, that guy said, I'll have to check and get back with you. So he called Mike back later and said, yeah, I guess you're right on that. And you know, people, these salesmen should know these things. If the public are not learning it, they should know before we do. So he got a little aggravated over that. I think some lack of communication there. And Mike ended up with the Kubota M7060 with the cab, which I feel like was the better option. I told him if I was buying a primary tractor that was going to be four-wheel drive with a loader and all that, I would go with Kubota. And I'll go into those details a little later when I compare this John Deere and Kubota. I was still planning on doing that video, just haven't got around to it. I'm not comparing them in that, when I do that video, I'm not comparing them as far as what they can do, just more so in comfort, layout, and design quality. Because this 5045 is made on the same basic chassis as all the way up to the 5075 is. But I'm gonna go over a few things, advantages and disadvantages to both brands and stuff in that video. But I get really frustrated with dealerships, and it just seems like you have to make them sell you something, and it shouldn't be that way. And it was to the point Dad had called, he got so aggravated, he called around to some of these dealerships several hours farther than even Bluefield away, checking on, seeing if they had a two-wheel drive 5045E, which some of them did, but it was going to be like $4,000 to $5,000 more at those dealerships. And you know, I can deal with a little frustration and get a better deal. Do I have any loyalty to my dealership or the Meade dealership? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And you know, that may have just been a little bit of a bum experience on our parts. You know, 3 people here living close by. Other people may have had that, and some people might love them. But you know, another thing, it was supposed to be free delivery on the tractor. Since we was going out there to do the paperwork, I told Dad, I said, let's just take a trailer, get the tractor, and quit fooling with them. So we asked them when we got out there, I said, since we're picking the tractor up, I guess you'll knock some off since you don't have to deliver it, won't you? He said, no, delivery's free. We're not knocking any off. I don't get that. You know, Abingdon Equipment, when I bought, I guess, the Kubota BX, I went out there and picked it up, and I think he knocked $75 or $100 off for me going and picking it up. So I know people that don't like Abingdon Equipment, but honestly, I've had a fairly decent experience with them out there. But as far as getting loyal to a dealership, they're going to have to be pretty good to me before I do. And I've peeled the Meade tractor logo off of this tractor just recently because I don't feel like they deserve any free advertisement past this video from me. But didn't really want to do this video, but I wanted to share it, what we'd been through and everything. And you know, if you've had similar experiences, leave them in the comments. I'd like to hear it. But thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you later.